Pacific NorthWest LNG outlined some of the work it intends to do on Lelu Island during a media tour on Wednesday morning, including plans for a 30-meter buffer zone.
So it will last. It's a good thing. So it's the ecological integrity. Will it work? It's the culturally modified trees. Most of them are in that zone, and we want to save as many as we can. And from the other end, it's the fact that we got to put a facility on this island. And the island looks big, but it's a big facility. So it's basically a space crunch, and it's an improvisation between the two needs: ecological, First Nations, archaeological, and how to put something on the island. So, keep in mind, apart from the 30-meter zone, the rest of the island will be flattened. Rock will be taken out, peat will be taken out. The entire place is flattened, and we've built the facility. So the federal government says you cannot have, on federal lands, you can't have any net loss of wetlands. So with the port, it's their land, we'd be leasing it. It's port land, they can't lose wetland function. So with the port, our offsetting thing will either create, enhance, replace, protect wetlands elsewhere off of Lelu. Hopefully the closer to Prince Rupert the better, that would be the goal. And we'll be looking to replace some of those functions, i.e. make sure that First Nations can still get to areas of traditional use, medicinal plants. The public can still get a walk through wetlands and things like that. And we also have wetlands that are still functioning for waterfowl, wildlife. In mind, when this is not just planned, it's wildlife habitat too. So the plan is to offset it with an equal amount or more of wetland functioning habitat elsewhere.
A lot of material will need to be removed from Lelu Island to construct the $11 billion terminal, with over 100 boreholes being drilled to give an idea of exactly what is underneath the moss and vegetation.
Borehole does a bunch of things. It's just the drill goes down, takes a sample of whatever it gets, tells us how deep the peat is. And peat is an issue. We have to do something with the peat, and you gotta know how much it is. So there's a lot of peat in the island, you might guess. It also goes down and then tells you how deep the rock is. So then how much peat comes out, and then how much rock we're gonna have to take out to get it down to everything's level. It also tells you what the rock's like, i.e. is it gonna be something that you can structurally build on, or is it gonna break up? Is it gonna be good for other uses? Is it gonna be good for riprap, or is it gonna be good for just, foundation gravel? Things like that. So the borehole tells you a whole bunch of stuff. But basically it's just saying to the engineers, where are they going to build the facility? Because there's going to be a tank approximately here. So they got to know, just don't build a tank on peat moss. It's not going to stay there. So the idea is structural, find out the structure of the island, what you can do with it, and what you can do with the peat and the rock afterwards. So it's a big thing. As you can see, it's not a mountain, but it's not a level island either, and there's going to be a lot of work. So the rock will be tested. We're going to have a lot of rock, and the port has said they can use a lot of rock, but I'm told we're going to have more rock than the port can use. We have to test the rock again, acid to anything sort of acid rock issues. But one option we have, and not for the peat, but for the rock, is some of the habitat offset projects we have in mind. We'll talk about when we're on the boat, but we could use a lot of rock for some habitat creation in marine. Sort of this sort of armoring or sort of containment for habitat islands and things like that. So could be that we get to use all the rock. The peat, another issue. You can't put the peat in the water. We have committed to keeping the peat on the island, so it's going to be piled up. There's a drainage over here. It's not a creek; it's just a drainage. It'll be dammed up a bit, similar to what they're doing on Ridley. We're going to pile the peat, collect the drainage, and make sure it doesn't go into the water, because it's natural. But when it gets concentrated, it's fairly acidic soil here. The water is pH, sort of like the pH of vinegar. So it's not something you just want to collect and dump. So it'll be contained, it'll be stored. At some point in the future when it's drained, there may be a viable use for it. We could take it once we finish construction and just spread it out again the south half of the island, which won't have a facility on it. It'll be the flare area. We could sort of remediate, or there could be an off-island source for it at some point, or need for it. But right now, it's staying on the island.
Marine navigation has been a concern of many on the north coast, but Clark said that most will not see any impact.
But right now, there's no restriction. I mean, you can't land at our dock, but there's nothing stopping you from going by it. The only possible restriction, again, will be set by the port, is out at the berth, just at the loading facility. It's sort of an international thing that you don't get near carriers when they're loading. And it ranges around the world from 100 meters to 300 meters. Less than 1% of the year, less than 1% of Flora Bank will be touched. You'll be going adjacent to Flora, but not on Flora. There's a lot of talk about, geez, back in the 70s that got rejected. The proposal in the 70s was a causeway on Flora Bank, a road on it. This trestle is going to be above it and beside it. So there's no restriction of water, no restriction of tides, no restriction of fish. It'll be, and as you can see, the navigational aid here, the boaters currently turn a hard port, I guess that is. They turn a hard port going around there, the passage through there. So the trestle will come out off the island, go up, it'll be 11.2 meters, just past that, for a 20-meter span, which gill netter can go through sideways.
And full build out, subject to weather, we expect a boat per day, 365 days of the year. Weather conditions out here, this is the North Pacific, probably can't do it 365 days a year, but there's conditions under which carriers can load, and they will not load above certain winds. So that's international standard. It's not something the port would put on us.
For the Northern View, I'm Sean Thomas.